Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. If you were just tuning in, we just finished talking about Mike Trout and his injury, his legacy as a baseball player, and much more. In our first two segments, we broke down every single NBA game from last night, my thoughts on the rest of the series, and what the outlook is for the rest of the Eastern Conference. You can go check those out. In this segment coming up, we're moving into the NFL, moving into football. We're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals, some news that we didn't have enough time to cover in previous shows. We are going to talk about the trade requests of T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson and how that's going to affect the Bengals in the short term, in the long term, and what I expect them to do this offseason with both of those guys, or if I expect them to get traded at all. But before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to GSMCpodcast.net. Leave a tip or donation with a message in it. That message will pop up at the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do leave a tip or donation, you enjoy what we talk about here on the show. Any burning questions or any of that, go to the link on the screen right now, GSMCpodcast.net, and leave your question with a tip or donation. We appreciate anything you do give. We appreciate your input and your comments. But like I was saying, we are going to move into the world of football, the Cincinnati Bengals, and the turmoil of some of their big offense defense. For some time now, T. Higgins has been requesting a trade. And there were thoughts that he was going to stay. As a report, he came out and said he expects to play in Cincinnati but they haven't worked on contracts in over a year. He was slapped with a franchise tag this offseason, and he requested a trade initially. It seemed like it was withdrawn when that story came out of him saying he expects to be on the Bengals this season, and then right before the draft, trade once again. So he wants out. They seem to be at an impasse. The Bengals aren't offering him that wide receiver one money that he thinks he deserves, and he definitely deserves wide receiver one money. He's not getting it. So it kind of brings up a little bit of an issue when we're talking about Bengals as a whole. Because, you can afford to lose T. Higgins, really, and that's a luxury most teams don't have. Most teams can't sit here and sit here and say, hey, we can afford to lose our number one guy, or a number one type receiver in T. Higgins, being able to survive a loss like T. Higgins. So they're balling him. They're giving him less than 20, which is less money than Calvin Ridley, who he's better than. It's less money than, some of these really highly paid receivers that aren't quite at the same level as T. Higgins, and T. Higgins wants his bag. He deserves it. Go pay the man. He's really good at football. But his situation with the Bengals seemed unfixable. Now, on the other side of the side that they really can't afford to, on the other side of the ball, Hendricks, a really underrated piece of the Bengals' success with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and all these guys that they have, has been the emergence of this defensive line, anchored by Trey Hendrickson. Trey Hendrickson, who's been incredible, the leader of that Cincinnati defense. It's really gone overlooked how good Cincinnati defense has been, but it's been one of the primary reasons why they were one of those deep play runs, why they're able to make those super games, why they're able to make the AFC Championship games a couple years in a row against the Chiefs. That defense is really good. And losing one of your main components to shed some pieces. Jesse Bates was an important part. He's gone now. But losing, and DJ really gone as well, another huge part of that line. But losing Hutchinson is something that's going to be almost impossible to replace. And they didn't do that in the draft. They went out and got a really good tackle, a big tackle, to shore up the offensive line, which is also a need. But if they were seriously going to grant a trade to a guy like Trey Hendrickson, you would think they'd go and get one of those edge rushers sitting there 18. If defensive players go off the board until 15, there were plenty of really good edge rushers available for them to take, or inside guys for them to take, and they passing on going offensive tackle, which, if that's the guy they wanted, I'm not going to pass judgment on that yet. But if they do end up trading Trey Hendrickson this season, or before the season, they need to get a haul. And he's worth a haul. He's still young. There are a lot of details behind why he asked for a trade request. I assume it's due to contract, because the Bengals are starting to run up against that. They pay Burrow. They're going to pay Jamar Chase. We talked about how the wide receiver market is about to explode, and there are teams that are getting ahead of it now, like the Eagles. The Eagles are really smart, I think, the way that they're handling it. They extended A.J. Brown. They extended Devon Smith. The wide receiver market exploded. Detroit did the same thing. They got ahead of it. They extended before them exploded. And now some of the heavy hitters coming up. Jamar Chase, Justin CDM. These guys are going to get contracts, and they're going to destroy the wide. We're going to get around $30 million. I expect at least 2 of them to get $30 million, because I think the first will sit around 9, and then we'll get the 30 and 2, or something like that is probably what we're looking at. I don't know who yet. It's whatever order is in, that's how it's going to go. They're going to keep one-upping each other. To get ahead of that now, because it's natural to want to reset the market when you're an elite receiver in the NFL. When you're elite at anything you do, you want to be the one that resets the market. And it's a fine thing to expect. But Bengals aren't willing to do that with 2 guys. And I can't say I blame them. It's a lot of money to be tied up on. And as much as receivers affect the game, and as much as guys like Jamar Chase, game changers, the Bengals need to figure out how they want to build their team. And it's really shocking to me that they don't want to extend Trey Hendrickson. He's been so important to their team's success, and that's the only reason why I assume he wanted a trade. It's shocking to me that they're not working something out with him. The fact that they draft defensive line makes me think that they're not going to trade him, but there's a lot of stuff that could happen, and Trey Hendrickson is really good at football. You send him a team like, say, the Vikings, say the Packers, the Falcons, some of these teams that there's a lot of differences. I wouldn't say the Chiefs. That's why my long pause was there, but that's not going to happen. They are not going to give more players to the Chiefs for him to destroy in the AFC Championship game or the AFC playoffs. They're not going to do that. But yeah, it's a really interesting situation the Cincinnati Bengals find themselves in, how they're going to manage their cap space with now coming up on their big payday. So lots to think about, lots to figure out for the Bengals. I don't expect them to get traded in the offseason. If one of them is going to, I expect it to be T. Higgins in like a sign-and trade kind of deal. But I don't think it's happening yet. I don't think Trey Hendrickson is going to get traded at all. He's just too valuable to Bengals unless some need comes in with him. So we'll have to see what happens. Like, anything can go down. It is the NFL. Never expect normalcy out of it. But the Bengals, in a really tough division, like the AFC North, with the Browns and their elite defense, if they can figure out the quarterback, they're dangerous. 2-time MVP Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry on that offense now, along with a much improved receiver and a really good defense. In the Ravens, you have the Steelers with their defense, and they have potentially a quarterback that can ignite the offense and get in. And Bengals here, who in theory both but again, is the keeps them well contention, and really tough to play like that. We'll see what kind of trade packages they get. Both of them are requesting trades. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. Like I said, I don't expect any of them to get traded, but something that's out there, contract leverage, because you see people do this all the time. We want a contract, or we're going to request a trade, and it's that they requested a trade. So we'll see. Anyway, I think it'd be dumb for the Bengals to do that. Those are my thoughts. Trade Higgins if you're going to trade one of them. You can get a haul from T. Higgins at Bills, I think. I don't know if they'd actually trade him to Bills, but Bills get a receiver bad, and maybe they're in that market. Bills could go out and get or Ayuk, who are also on the block. Anyway, thank you for watching today's episode of Sports by Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. We'll be back here same time, same place tomorrow, checking out more of the NBA and NHL action, as well as any other major breaking story happening in the world. Thank you for sticking around. You have a great rest of your day. Oh.
And the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't. Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn.